I'm Christina Holton, and today we're going to discuss the instructional challenge that is student-faculty communication. Let's get started. Take a moment and think about the first time you ever made a phone call. How about the first time you used email, likely with dial-up internet? Do you remember the first time you sent a text message? Now think about how we communicate and what role these modalities play in your life today. Email, texting, social media, and learning management systems are not only part of my social life, but they play a huge role in my professional life as well. I would bet that each of you have interacted with at least two of these modalities today, or even within the last hour. Although having to log on to Canvas to access this presentation makes that a bit of an unfair bet. Notice I didn't even bring up phone calls. I saw this recently and thought it might resonate with some. Personally, I'm not opposed to making phone calls, but I recognize the fact that I don't make nearly as many as I used to, and I know some people who try to avoid it at all costs. Communication is a key component to higher education, and it occurs each and every day. It is through communication that the exchange and transfer of important information occurs. Communication serves as an opportunity for learning to take place. Also, students will continue to grow and develop their communication skills because it is lifelong. There will never be a time when students will not need to utilize communication. Communication is so important to the learning and development of students that many institutions have incorporated it as part of their critical skills through learning outcomes. Here are just a few examples from some institutions that we hold near and dear to us. Whatcom includes communication as a core learning ability. Portland Community College has it as a core outcome. Utah Valley University as an essential learning outcome. And Lane also includes communication as a core learning outcome. Although these describe how communication is incorporated as part of the formal learning environment, it is also important to understand that communication is a critical aspect to the interactions that support the formal learning environment. So for the rest of this presentation, we are going to focus on the communication that happens between students and faculty outside of that formal classroom setting. The communication that happens between students and faculty is essential to the learning process. Often the goal of communication can be the same for students and faculty. Students want to be able to ask questions related to what they are learning, and faculty want to be able to clarify that information for students. Communication is a means of creating critical connections between students and faculty. Also, increased student engagement can come from good communication between students and faculty. Many students today seek out fast and convenient modalities of communication. With a world of information merely a Google search away, students often seek out and expect a quick response. In addition, students tend to communicate in short, concise bursts. In contrast to this, many faculty prefer the personal aspect of in-person communication, and this can easily be shown with the concept of office hours. Some faculty are less driven by the need to respond to students as quickly as possible, and they see great value in a more detailed explanation. A study at Baylor University found that college students spend nearly half of their waking hours on their smartphones in one capacity or another. I know I see it every day in my center, and as a working professional who is also a student, I can relate to these findings. Because they are so digitally connected, students want faculty to meet them where they are at, which is often online in some form or another. I was recently in a meeting with a small group of students, and so I did a quick poll of them, asking in what way would you prefer your instructors to contact you outside of the normal class setting, and resoundingly they said via text. Not all colleges have standards or policies in place that explain the expectations for student-faculty communications. As an example, I know several instructors in my department who will gladly meet students online for virtual office hours, and they take pride in responding to email as quickly as possible. Yet there are other instructors, same department, who ask their students specifically to not email them. It is important to note that communication will likely vary depending on the demographics of the student and the faculty member. For example, for a student who's taking all or nearly all of their classes online, there may be different expectations for online communication. Similarly, for an adjunct faculty member who teaches on campus, say, only 2 days a week, they might have different expectations for online communication. Overall, this outlines the instructional challenge around student and faculty communication outside of the traditional classroom setting. Namely, there seems to be a disconnect between expectations and actions. I think it is possible to work towards lessening this challenge by putting some focus on the area. First, I believe it is important to provide greater information around this topic for both students and faculty. Allow faculty the opportunity to hear from students and why they need or desire to have more digital communication methods and how it can benefit their learning. Similarly, I think faculty should be allowed to voice concerns that they have regarding increased digital communication so that these concerns can be properly addressed. Next, I believe students and faculty should be involved in the process of setting clear expectations for communication. There are many things to consider when outlining a set of baseline expectations, including the following: which modalities are mandatory and which are optional, what constitutes an adequate response time, what topics can or cannot be discussed in a digital format, and there may be laws around those, and which format is better for which kinds of communication. By including both faculty and students in this process, they are more likely to support the implementation efforts since they have helped to create it. Once the expectations are set, the college should find ways to provide training and support for faculty and students who are interested in learning how to maximize the efficiency of the communication. Those who are novice or reluctant, or even just new to the college, should work towards gaining the skills necessary to meet the baseline expectations. Those who are interested should be allowed to learn more and continue to explore options as they become available. Similarly, not all students who are as completely digitally wired, so support can be provided to them as well around how to properly use technology to communicate with faculty. Given the fact that technology changes so rapidly, it is important to revisit the expectations that were set and evaluate if they are meeting the needs of students and faculty. This allows opportunity for changes to be made if necessary. There are always things to consider when communicating using modalities other than in person. Digital communication can be easily misinterpreted, so it is important to remember your audience and purpose when communicating digitally. Also, shorter, concise communication may result in leaving out important information, so it is good to know exactly what you're wanting to say. In addition, some digital communication modalities do not have easy ways to archive or back up the communication, so knowing and understanding this is vital so that information that is critical is not accidentally lost when, say, someone loses or breaks their cell phone. Overall, I believe that student and faculty can increase the effectiveness and satisfaction of communication by discussing the needs and expectations for communication. Allowing for increased digital communication can provide ways to continue to support the learning environment outside the traditional classroom setting, as well as provide opportunities for students who are perhaps more shy or anxious to reach out to their instructors. I look forward to any questions or comments that you may have about this issue. In the spirit of digital communication, you can post them to Canvas or send them to me via text. Thank you for your time.